Hey everybody, my name's Devin.
And I'm Ryan.
We're so glad that we're chuckling
Yeah.
because we were called to this spot with seconds to spare. We had so much time.
We made it. We weren't too far.
Megan, thank you
Yes.
for guiding us. We are Infused Church. We're a place for imperfect people, just like us, to explore faith and find community, which means that this is more than a video to watch. It's a community to engage in, and there's a couple of ways that you can dive in right here, right now, today.
Yeah.
What are those ways?
Online, if you're watching us right now, go jump in that chat. We're going to ask you a question in a few minutes. Should be a good one, I think. I mean, being proud again. I made up the question. We take turns.
We practice humility here
yes,
too.
We do.
Yes.
So we make up questions and try to stump each other, but we'll get it. So Infused Church /Connect. Look into some of our groups. You can watch past videos. We're on the final week of a sermon, so you can go back and watch the others and catch up, or watch it after. I don't know. You can watch it in whatever order you want. I think it was a recap. So the question I want to ask you guys today, seeing that it's cold where we are, I don't know what it is there.
Might be better for you.
Shoot your temperatures in there, high or low.
Yeah.
But what is your favorite cold weather go-to food?
Yes.
Mine being chili.
Oh, that's
the
good.
spiciest I can get it.
Yeah, it's all that's
And this is one we agreed on earlier. Chili,
spicy.
Spicy chili. So let us know in the comments what you think about that.
Yeah, what your comfort food is in cold weather.
Yeah.
Thanks to Heather for hosting the online chat. So you'll see her name in there, Heather Hutchcroft. She does a great job of putting some links in, connecting with folks. So if you have any questions, to reach out to Heather. You can also join us as a chat host if that's right for you. We are headed into the final week of the I Don't Wanna series, which is all about taking ownership in your life and encouraging others to do the same. And Caitlin's going to pose this question to us, which is that we all know when you take responsibility, you end up with less sometimes. You end up with more responsibility and other things, but you also end up with less time, less money, and another to-do. Well, maybe that's a more on the endless list of to-dos. Is being responsible worth it? Which is a question we all ask ourselves at times.
And we don't have enough time to go over that one right now. But
Yeah,
speaking of that, this time today we're doing communion. So online, if you're watching, go raid the fridge or the cabinet, get some wheat thins or anything, a food element and a drink element, and you can participate with us and follow the cues on that Caitlin will give you on stage. There's a lot to talk about, I think, next week. So we're starting with a new series called Resistible Religion. And for me, it's kind of, I've been resisting telling jokes. So I'll wait, and use that. But you won't be able to resist the next thing that Devin's going to tell you about what we're having in person next week.
Right. So since you are online, you may not join us next week. And so we encourage you to find yourself your own treat to ease the pain of coming to church an hour earlier, because that's where we're at in time. If you don't have to deal with that, blessings upon you. Enjoy yourselves. But if you do have to deal with that hour earlier, get yourself a treat. If you come in person, we will have Hurts donuts, because it sometimes hurts to get out of bed.
Yes.
And
speaking of getting out of bed, kids wear PJs, adults wear PJs if you want to. We're not going to judge. Get your donut and get your PJs. But definitely for kids, they're going to love it. They always love that. Simon enjoys it. I know he still dresses up. Sometimes he wears a onesie. Yes. We never know. We'll have to get pictures online if he wears something creative for you guys. And if you want to send us pictures of your warm weather pajamas or your cold weather pajamas, whichever suits your weather, that would be great. We love to always have comments in there and pictures. Great to post online.
Yeah. And to give you just a taste of what resistible religion is about, it's about how sometimes we put up barriers to the gospel and what those are. We'll see you after the service here in a few seconds.
Good morning and welcome to Infused Church, in person and online. If you want to stand and join us in singing.
In my wrestling and in my doubts, in my failures, you won't walk out. Your great love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sun. Oh, you are the peace in my troubled sea. In the silence, you won't let go. In the questions, your truth will hold. Your great love will lead me through. You are the peace in the troubled sea. Oh, you are the peace in my troubled sea. My lighthouse, shining in the darkness, I will follow you. Oh, my lighthouse, I will trust the promise.
Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. You'll bow your heads and pray with me. Lord, we just thank you that we're here, able to gather in your presence, in your love that is never ending and always surrounding us. We bring whatever is going on in our lives to you this week, and we come here with open hearts and open minds to listen to the message as Caitlin speaks, and just to breathe in your word, Lord. We thank you for this opportunity to gather.
And we surrender to you in your name, I pray. Amen. You may be seated.
Hello, welcome to Infuse Church. My name is Stephanie, and we're really glad you are here today. Infuse is a church for imperfect people to explore faith and find community. No matter where you've been, what you've done, or your experience with church in the past, we pray today will help you take a step forward in a new direction. If it's your first time today, we'd love to connect with you. If you're in person, say hello to our first-time guest host standing by the first-time banner in the hallway. Not only are they super friendly, but they have a free gift for you. How much better could it get? If you're joining us online for the first time, fill out our online connection card because we'd love to reach out and say hello to you too. If you've come prepared to give today, there are 3 ways to do that. 1, you can give in person at the table in the back of the gym. 2, online through our website or Infuse Church app. And 3, mail to the address on your screen. Thank you for your generosity. To stay up to date with what's happening at Infuse Church and discover ways to make Infuse your church home, subscribe to our amazing weekly email by going to the address on your screen. Follow us on social media, and most importantly, download the Infuse Church app. Thank you again for joining us.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Devin.
I'm Ryan. Welcome to Infuse Church. We have 2 important things we have to tell you this week. We're going to get right up here real quick and tell you because, we're running slow today. Apparently, it's our thing today.
It's our thing.
Yeah.
We almost didn't make the little video for the folks online. Sorry, folks online. You've heard that joke
But
already.
we're here now. So the first thing is I get to talk about, which is great. Devin gets to talk about generosity.
Yes.
I get to talk about food because I love food. So at First Church Cedar Rapids next Saturday, they're having a chili cook-off and a ping pong contest. Food. Gotta love it. So 4 o'clock, I think they say ping pong, and 5 o'clock is a chili cook-off. You can go to infuse.church/connect to find out more about that. Sign up for that. They'd love to have you up there. For us, it's spicy chili. So
Spicy,
if
as
we're
spicy
going,
as it
we
gets.
want to get the spiciest chili, and you're the winner for us.
Are you going to enter in this chili contest?
I don't know.
Don't know.
I might have to.
Okay.
Or a secret with a different name or something.
Okay. So yes, and if you didn't know, the First Church up in Cedar Rapids is our partner church. We're sharing pastors, leadership teams, resources. We're just excited to partner with them in the years to come. Every week I get up here and I talk about how generosity, people who are serving, people who are giving changes lives, and just want to celebrate a little bit every week. And this week I want to talk about the middle school group. So every Sunday morning we've got a middle school group that meets here, and they have started a short-term group for middle schoolers that meets here in Tiffin. And thanks to all of you, there's pizza at that gathering. We're able to invest financially. Middle schoolers love pizza. It's pretty easy, slam dunk sort of thing. But there's 9 attendees, and they're getting there early. So a shout out to those parents for showing up and driving them around. And once they get the pizza, they talk about biblical perspectives on the things that they're dealing with every day, like anxiety, friends, bullying. And some have even asked if there's going to be a next group or how it's going to continue because they've been having such a good time. So thanks to all of you who are investing.
Yeah.
There you go. Thanks to all of you who are investing time and energy and money in that. It is making a difference. And if you want to get involved here at Infuse, there's 2 recommended next steps. You can serve. You go to infuse.church/connect or scan that QR code and sign up to shadow a serving team. And then you can give financially at infuse.church/give or scan that code to make a gift. You can consider a one-time gift or setting up something over time. So thank you to all of you who do that. And we're just so excited about the things that are happening.
Very excited.
Yeah.
And if I was a middle schooler, I'd be there just for the pizza.
There you go.
And, but I know the Bible and the pizza is a great thing. And to build community, just like our middle schoolers are wanting more and always wanting more, you can want more as well. Join us in groups online. Come every Sunday and serve, like Devin said. It's just such a great thing to do here. But to build community, we like to say it's not 4 walls, it's not the building, it's not the gymnasium that we're in. It's you guys. It's you out there, you guys online that give every week, that are here every week. So we like to give you 3 minutes. And we'll ask you a question. Now, before I ask the question, during that 3 minutes, we hope you talk to people and you need more than 3 minutes like last week. Maybe you tried to connect with somebody and didn't have enough time. So connect with them again if you see them. But don't forget to grab your communion cup if you didn't get one. We'll be doing that after service. But for 3 minutes, we want you to answer this question. What's the most useful tool or appliance that you own? Now, I was kind of stumped when we heard this earlier, and I don't know. I mean, I know what Devin's is, so I'll let him share that
fun
one.
is chainsaw, but useful is probably the one that gets used the most is the dishwasher. It just is running all the time with all
I
the
will
kids.
have to agree on dishwasher.
all the time.
But yeah, give it the 3 minutes, talk to everybody, and get your communion cup if you need to. So have fun with that.
Okay, but I have to yell at you guys.
Linda, listen. Listen, Linda. Listen.
Okay, what?
Like everything they do at this house, you can't trust everything at Grandma's house.
Okay,
Okay, then what?
then you're not listening to me.
Then you're not listening to me.
I asked you not to do something.
Linda, but listen to me. Look at, if you do something, if you get that bird thing off, you're gonna break it.
Okay, but I'm letting you know that you cannot.
Linda,
I'm.
lick it.
You're not listening to me.
Linda,
Listen to me now. Listen to me now.
Listen to me.
No, you're not listening. I said no cupcakes. I'm done arguing with you.
I'm not arguing with you.
You need to listen to the things that I say because I'm the mom and I'm the adult.
Linda, listen to me. All the time to get them this thing
arguing with you.
Linda, I'm not arguing with you.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Infuse. My name is Caitlin, and I serve as Groups Director here at Infuse. And I know Taylor said he was going to be back for a little while, but it's your lucky day, and you get to hang out with me this morning. And we're going to continue our sermon series, I Don't Wanna, where we've been talking all about responsibility. And some of you that may have been watching or here in person last week might have noticed that's the same funny video we watched last week, Caitlin. Like, what's up with that? Wasn't as funny the second time, right? Well, I'm not gonna say who was irresponsible, but Pastor Taylor maybe dropped the ball on getting the funny video that I sent him onto the screen today. We just like to give him a hard time, and I thought it fit in with our responsibility theme. I'm sure he'll listen back to this and love it. Love the shout out. But I had a funny video. It was a commercial where there was a little boy and his dad was going to pass him the car keys to this new Subaru or whatever the car was advertising for. And they said, you know, son, you ready for your turn? And he throws in the keys and it flashes to him driving this car, this little child, having to drop his dad off at work, having to honk at the people around him when he was running late, having to go fill up with gas when the light came on. And he said, nah, threw the keys back, right? He did not want that responsibility. And I think that many of us can relate to that in our lives. As adults, most of us in this room have responsibilities that even though we have them, we don't really want them, right? I know in my life that would include cooking, cleaning, paying the bills, the things that come with adulthood, and there's no take back on those responsibilities, unfortunately. But we do get to choose how well we are doing those responsibilities, right? When we're saying, I don't wanna, and when instead we are stepping up to take action. We have a choice to either step up, like Pastor Taylor said last week in his message, and take action, or to step out on those responsibilities. And that's just kind of what we're faced with, right? And I like to give the example, too, of the car, personally for myself, that I, as a teenager, was not the most responsible person. Probably shouldn't have had a license to drive at that time. But I would often ignore the fact that my car was running low on gas. And I would step out on that responsibility, and the impact of that was my car often stalled out in just the most random places. And luckily, living in a small town, people would just like bring you gas, you'd call somebody, but you know, it's not that easy all the time. And that's a big deal when your car just stalls out. Parents, make sure you tell your kids about this. It's a lesson learned. But the reason that I think we step out on our responsibilities is because we know the impact. Even though we know the outcome, that I knew my car would run out of gas at some point, I still didn't fill it up because I didn't want to. And I like to think that if we knew the impact, we would do those things. I mean, if we think about the impact that nutrition and exercise could have in our life, right? That if we made that a priority, if we were responsible in those areas, it could lead to a longer lasting life. More years on your life, health, less doctor's visits. So if we all just knew that, we would be very nutritious in exercise, right? Or if we knew that being more financially responsible with our money would lead to maybe an earlier retirement age, wouldn't we all just do that? Wouldn't that be nice? Or if we knew that changing the oil in our car or fixing that thing at home that we always meant to fix would lead to more value in our home, longer lasting on the market, that we would do those things. Or my favorite, if we knew that cleaning our house and doing the dishes would make our roommates or significant others happy all the time, we would just do it all the time, right? Well, it obviously, we know the impacts, but we are still choosing to not do those responsibilities, to say, I don't want it, to step out on those responsibilities. And I think that is because we know the value, but we also know that the immediate gratification of saying, I don't want to those responsibilities outweighs the lasting impact of the responsibilities. In other words, the immediate gratification of our irresponsibility outweighs the lasting impact of our responsibility. If we say, I don't wanna in the moment, right, to those things, then boom, it just disappears. I get the immediate gratification of more money in my pocket, more time, less things on my to-do list, less energy spent. That's my immediate gratification that I'm getting, but I could be missing out on the lasting impact. And I think that's where a lot of us fall short in responsibility. Because we know that our irresponsibility is going to cost us something. We've talked about that for the last 4 weeks. It's going to cost us someone else taking over that responsibility. It's going to pass it on to someone else in our lives. Or if there's no one there, like Pastor Taylor said last week, it's going to result in a brokenness. Something in our life is going to be broken. And we know that it's going to cost us, but in the moment, we aren't impacted by that. That is not phasing us in that moment when we're having to take care of that responsibility. And these responsibilities, they are just going to continue to acquire and change no matter what season of life we are walking through. They're not going anywhere. So how can we flip the scales, so to speak? How can we choose, instead of our immediate gratification, choosing the lasting impact of our responsibilities? What if we started to consider and we thought about what we might be missing out on? What might be costing us instead of the cost of our responsibility, like the time, money, the effort? What if we considered the cost that we were losing when it comes to that lasting impact that our responsibility could have? What could we be missing out on? And that's what we're going to talk about today. And as we talk about this, we're going to go to the chapter in our Bible, or the book of our Bible, I should say, Ruth. Now, I was sparked for this question, really this whole topic, because my women's group, so shout out to my women's group if you're watching. Hey there, everyone. And we've been studying the book of Ruth. It was just a short 2-week study, but it really sparked something for me, because if you haven't read Ruth before, it's in the Old Testament of the Bible. It's only 4 chapters long, so it's not a long read, and it's really engaging. So I encourage you, if you haven't read it before, to go back and do that this week. It'll fly by, and it's a really good story. And, girl power, biblical women, women supporting women here. It's a great story of an amazing woman in the Bible. But we are not going to focus on Ruth today, unfortunately. I'd love to tell you more about her. But instead, we're going to talk about, in this story, 2 other people who were faced with contemplating the cost of responsibility on their lives. They were set up with this choice. And we get to see how the cost, the lasting impact, what it costed both of them. And so to give you a brief rundown, if you haven't read Ruth before, we're going to kind of fly through this for the sake of time, so stick with me here. But there in the Bible, so it starts out with the time of Judges. So it's taking place in this time, this period of Judges, where it's kind of just overall chaos. Things are running awry socially, religiously, politically. Everyone is kind of just choosing to put their own needs first. They're prioritizing their immediate gratification over the lasting impact that they could be having. And the results of that, besides pure chaos, is that it leads to a dire lasting impact of a famine. And I know, thinking of a famine for us today is a little difficult because we can just go to the store and get what we need. But think about the time when you couldn't really get toilet paper or eggs, and then multiply that times 1,000, okay? That's what a famine would feel like. Because these people relied on the land for their food. They didn't have a store to go to. And so when they're faced with this, the characters in our story, we start out with Elimelech. I've been practicing that one, guys. Elimelech and his wife, Naomi. And they have 2 sons. And they decide to try to escape this famine that's taking place. They move. So they move their family to Moab to try to get away from all of this, to make a new life, to get away from the famine and provide for their family. Now, when they get there to this new land, an unfortunate series of events happen, and I promise this is a great story, but some of these things that happen aren't so great. So the first thing that happens is Elimelech, the patriarch of the family, he dies. And that leaves Naomi and her 2 sons. Now, the important part here is that Naomi still has her sons, and her sons go on to get married. And so they have a wife, and one of those wives is Ruth, the main character, some might say, but the namesake of this book of the Bible. Now, it's not okay that Elimelech died. That sounds really bad. Probably rephrase that. But Naomi still has her sons. And in the context for this that I did not understand until doing this Bible study with my group is that the context of this time culturally is that women couldn't own land. Women didn't have a lot of rights or a lot of those types of things. Men, the patriarch of your family, was the one that provided for you. They were the ones that could own the land. They sheltered you. They fed you. They provided a life for you. And don't get me wrong, women did a lot. Ruth, amazing in the story. Naomi, faithful and amazing. But in the culture, in the context of the culture, to really survive, they needed a male in their family to kind of take ownership over them at this time. So Naomi's doing okay because she has her sons, and her sons get married, and they have their wives. And then about 10 years later or so, unfortunately, another dun-dun-dun in our story is that her sons die. Now, this is where things get a little sticky in the story of Ruth and Naomi, because without a male in their family, it's not looking so good for them, especially for Naomi. Because at this time, she's older, and while she maybe could get remarried, but having children, even if she did, they wouldn't be old enough to provide for her and the amount of time that she needed to survive. So she tells her daughter-in-laws, and she says, hey, girls, look, we're kind of faced with this tough situation. There's not really a quick fix here, but you're young. There's still hope for you. So I want you to go out and find new husbands and live your life and survive, really, right? To have a life worth living. And she gives them that opportunity, and one of the daughter-in-laws, she leaves. We cross her off, but she doesn't die like the rest. That's probably dramatic. But she does. She goes out, and I'm sure she gets happily remarried, lives her life, and it's great. I don't know for sure, but that's just what I think, what I like to imagine in my head anyway. And that leaves Ruth. And now Ruth, she says, in response to this, in chapter 1, verse 16, I'm going to read it for you here. She says to Naomi, where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Now, I don't know how all of you feel about your mother-in-laws. Love mine, by the way, but I don't know how all of you feel about your mother-in-laws. This is a big commitment on a lot of levels. Ruth is saying, you know what, Naomi, I am faithful to you. And not only that, I'm faithful. I'm converting my religion. I am faithful to your God. And I believe he's going to provide for us, despite the circumstances that we're facing. Just one of the many ways that Ruth is amazing. So she chooses to stay. So that leaves Ruth and Naomi. And they travel back to Elimelech's hometown, per se, of Bethlehem. And they do this because that's kind of their only chance at survival. If they move back and find a relative of Elimelech to kind of take over for him, to essentially take ownership over their land, their household, and provide for them, that's their best shot. So they move together from Moab to Bethlehem, another move. Ruth has never been there before. She's a Moabite woman. It's another big commitment on her part. And they move their household. And we're going to kind of skip through some of this here. So again, I encourage you to just read it this week because it's really engaging. But it goes on. They get there. Ruth is kind of working in the field. She's checking things out. And they meet a relative named Boaz. And Ruth, very modern, kind of like shoots her shot with Boaz and asks him to marry her. That's the way I interpreted it anyway, so you guys can read it for yourselves. But she kind of just goes out and steps out there and takes that chance. Again, what makes her so amazing, can't say it enough. And so Boaz is faced with this responsibility. Now Boaz, up until this point, I think he's living the bachelor life. In my head anyway, I don't know if that's true, but I feel like he's living this life of bachelorhood. I imagine him to be doing that. And now he's faced with this choice of responsibility. The Bible tells us that he's a man of good standing. And a man of good standing, he knows maybe what the right thing to do is, but that's a lot. Not only would he be taking on a wife and a mother-in-law and land, ownership over all those things, but he would also be taking over for more mouths to feed, to provide for, and changing his whole lifestyle, right? His whole bachelor lifestyle. The immediate gratification doesn't really feel like it would be there. There's a pro-con list here, and I feel like the con list is probably a little longer. There's a lot to weigh. But Boaz, being a good upstanding citizen, he also knows that he's not technically next in line to take over to marry Ruth. He's not the next relative in line. So even though he's faced with this opportunity, he knows that there's someone else in this story. So he seeks out this person, and we're going to read this in chapter 4 of Ruth if you want to follow along on your phones and your Bibles, in verse 3, I believe. And we're introduced to this character, the guardian redeemer. That's the person, the guardian redeemer. And that's a Hebrew term. It's a legal term for the next one that's obligated to care for a relative in need. But for the sake of having to say guardian redeemer a lot of times today, we're going to name him today. Super fun. So I need online, you can type your answers. I will read them, so give me some funny ones. But in the crowd, shout out some names that we could name our guardian redeemer today. Ralph. That was nice and loud and clear. Anybody else? Any other contributions here? No? Ralph. Oh, now I got to say Ralph every time. I was thinking like Bill or Bob, but wow. Thank you, whoever shouted that one out. So, our guardian redeemer's name is Ralph. The Bible doesn't name him, but we are going to for today. We're going to give him some character. Maybe you can imagine some traits about Ralph in your head. I'll let you guys run wild with that one. So, Boaz goes up to the guardian redeemer, to Ralph, and he says to him, Naomi, who has come back from Moab, is selling her piece of land that belonged to our relative Elimelech. And he goes on to tell him, I thought I should bring the matter to your attention, Ralph, and suggest that you buy it in the presence of these seated here. There were some officials around for this because it was a proceeding kind of, right? He got the officials of the city to have this happen. And in the presence of the elders of my people, if you will redeem, and it goes on, if you will redeem it, do so. But if you will not, tell me so that I will know, so that Boaz will know what to do. For no one has the right to do it except you, Ralph. And then I am next in line. Boaz is next in line. And I will redeem it, he said. So it sounds like Boaz has kind of made up his mind. But he's giving this opportunity, this chance at responsibility, to the obligated one, to Ralph, the guardian redeemer. And that's really fun to keep saying. And it doesn't stop there. Okay, so when we can go back a slide here, guys. So he offers it up to Ralph, offers the land up to him. And at this point, I think Ralph is thinking like, this is a pretty sweet deal. Like, land equals food equals money, right? So he's like, yeah, I'll take on that land. I can do that. But Boaz goes on to add a little more here. The con list wasn't very long at this point, but he says, oh, and also, on the day that you buy the land from Naomi, you also acquire Ruth, the Moabite, the dead man's widow. And in order to maintain the name of the dead with his property, because that was part of the context at this time too. So you can take the land, but you also have to take the relatives with the land and provide for them. So the con list just got a little longer for Ralph here. He was all in before. That immediate gratification, it was there. Land, money, food, check, he was ready. But now that he realizes there's this other responsibility here, I think Ralph is seeing the way that his immediate gratification wouldn't be met. He's not looking very far out at the lasting impact that this decision could have, but he knows that doing this, that acquiring a wife and a mother-in-law, along with the land, would really reshape and disrupt his life. The Bible study we were doing even talked about how, like, this man, Ralph, could have had a family of his own that could have disrupted that whole dynamic in his life. There's a lot that could have gone along with that. So then Ralph changes his mind, and he says that I cannot redeem it. I take that back, because I might endanger my own estate. I might disrupt my own life too much. So Boaz, you redeem it, because I cannot do it. He says, no thanks. He says, I don't wanna to that responsibility, right? He doesn't step up and take action. He chooses to step out. And a lot of times, we can be like Ralph in this situation, right? We can choose, we can see the way that that responsibility is going to be a little too much for us, and we step out. That immediate gratification just isn't there. Now, Boaz, as we kind of already know, he knows what he's going to do next. And he decides to accept that responsibility, and he does by it. And the way that this happens in the story, too, you'll have to read it, it's with like a sandal, which again, context here, right? We don't purchase things with our sandals anymore, but in this time, that's how that went down. And Boaz goes on to announce to everyone around him and all the people, he says, today you are witnesses that I have bought from Naomi all the property of Elimelech and these other people I'm not going to try to pronounce. I have also acquired Ruth the Moabite and as his wife. So he's pretty proud, and he's doing this in order, I think it goes on to say, in order to maintain the name of the dead with his property. He's doing the right thing so that his name will not disappear from among his family or from his hometown. So today you are all witnesses. Boaz is proud of this. He's announcing it to these people. So not only is he taking responsibility, but he's doing it in a way that is so honoring of those who have passed and of Ruth and her mother-in-law. And at the time, I think that Boaz is not focused on the immediate gratification, because now he's faced with acquiring a lot more responsibility, more mouths to feed, more people in his life to shelter, more land to figure out what to do with. There's a lot that comes along with this, but Boaz wasn't focused on the here and now. He wasn't focused on what was happening in that moment. And I don't even think that he really understood the lasting impact that this decision, that this responsibility was about to have. Because besides Ruth and Boaz, the story of Ruth, Boaz, and Naomi really being a great story of faithfulness, of redemption, there's a lot you can learn here. But besides those things and the way that that's impacted us, there's another reason that we still talk about Ruth and Boaz today. If this, which is definitely not a Bible, I'm going to preface that for later, this was a story of Boaz's life, right? If this was Boaz's life story, he wasn't looking ahead and taking a peek at the end. He didn't know, just like many of us don't know what that lasting impact is. He had no idea. But I'm going to tell you guys today what that was. Because they got to be a part, Ruth and Boaz got to be a part of a lasting legacy. They were in the bloodline of the greatest gift that we have received, of God's greatest plan, of the climax of his story, of God's story. And they got to be a part of that because they were in the bloodline of Jesus. From Ruth and Boaz, that led to Mary and Joseph and the birth of Jesus. What an amazing thing to be a part of. And he didn't know that at the time. I doubt that he thought in that moment that we'd still be talking about him thousands and thousands of years later. What a legacy. Now, I had this all kind of planned out to show you, but on the next screen is going to be a QR code. So you can scan this, hopefully it works, and for those of you watching online, they can make it big so you can scan it from your screen, or just head to this address down here, and it shows you this really nice diagram of Jesus's bloodline, both the divine and the human, right? Because there's kind of two aspects to this, and it's really great, and it gives little descriptions of them. Some of them are even kind of funny, which I enjoy. So it goes through all the way down. You follow the line, you see Ruth and Boaz, and eventually leads to Jesus. So check that out. I wasn't about to try to pronounce all those names for you today, so you can find those for yourself. But it's amazing, right? And I don't think that Ralph knew what he was missing, right? I don't know where Ralph is or where he went in this story, but if we could imagine it, he probably went back to the life he was living. But we're not talking about him. He's not even named in the Bible. So whatever he did do, whatever that lasting impact he had was, it wasn't quite as amazing as the way that Boaz got to be a part of his own story, right? And we all have a chance at having a lasting impact. Like Taylor talked about last week, about stepping up and taking action. We all have a story that's being written each and every day. And as we flip through the pages of our lives, those responsibilities feel really heavy, right? Day after day, we're flipping through, and it feels like a lot. That immediate gratification feeling isn't always there. Instead, I'm feeling the weight of my never-ending to-do list, of the financial responsibilities that I have in my life, or the weight that relationships are taking. But when we consider instead what those things might be costing us, we can be reminded in those moments, don't lose your legacy. Don't lose your legacy. Don't miss out on what could be waiting for you, either at the end of your story or in the middle of that story, for that matter. Think about when you're faced with the cost of financial responsibility, that upfront immediate gratification cost, because I would much rather buy that cup of Starbucks coffee every day of the week or spend on that new boat, that luxury item. That's costing you something. Maybe that's costing you the impact that you could have had on your family financially. Maybe it's costing you the impact that your generosity could have had on families in your community, for that matter, right? The difference that your money could make when you're being generous with it. You could be losing pieces of your legacy. Maybe it's the responsibility that comes from being a sister, a son, from being a significant other, a spouse, a friend. The amount of time that it would take to invest in that relationship, time away from your own interests, the weight that it would cost, right? To have to say, I forgive you, or I'm sorry. That just feels like too much right now. I don't wanna. What could we be missing out on instead? You could be missing out on the fact that that person in your life, that person was meant to make all the difference in your story. You could be missing out on maybe being that person in their life and changing and impacting them. For some of us, maybe we've been stepping out on being a good neighbor, just that general, being a good person to those around us, to showing them love, to being responsible with our call to serve others. Because, stopping to say hey to my neighbors and chat with them for a little too long, that's gonna cost me too much of my time. Or maybe that extra volunteering after work or serving on a Sunday morning, that's a lot. And don't get me wrong, it is. There's some costs there, right? But we could be missing out on pages of our legacy, of the way that we were meant to be a part of God's story in someone else's life. I was just thinking about my women's group as I wrote this week, and the way that they've been able to impact my life, not only to bring this message, but just to encourage me to be accountable, right? They could be recoursing the way that I view faith, the way that I engage with Jesus in my life. And without that, I could be losing a piece of my legacy. For some of us who are following Jesus, there may be some ways that we have been stepping out on our responsibility to follow him, right? That the time that it might take to study or pray or join in community with others, it's just a little too much right now. It's another thing on our to-do list, another thing on our schedule. But we could be missing out on the greatest legacy, the greatest part of our story, without even knowing it. Because when we know what these things are costing us, when we know we're losing that lasting impact, that can make all the difference in those moments when we're faced with those choices to step up or step out. Because having God be a piece of this story, he invites us in to something so much greater than ourselves. Because when we decide to follow Jesus, when we decide to give our lives to God, that's not just us saying, well, now I know where I'm gonna go when I die, check. It's something so much bigger than that. It's God inviting us along in this opportunity, in this story of kingdom living here on earth. It's our chance to be a part of a story that we could not even imagine. He changes something in us in that moment that continues for us to seek him and to be responsible with our faith and to push forward in those times where it's tough, because we know that we are a part of something greater than ourselves, that we get a chance to be a part of God's story, just like Boaz was a part of Jesus' story. We're all invited into that if we just don't lose it first, if we don't trade it in for that immediate gratification. And some of you may be thinking, that's not me. I am not either on that track. I don't deserve to be a part of that story. You might be thinking that today. And maybe you're just here by default, right, to make someone else happy. And so you feel like it doesn't apply to you. But that's not what Jesus says. In his death and his resurrection and the forgiveness of our sins, he invites us all to continue on this journey. He invites us in to be a part of it. He died for all of us. He died for all the imperfect people, and especially the broken, imperfect people. So don't count yourself out. Don't lose your legacy, especially before you've even discovered what that could look like. I think there's a lot of ways that we've kind of all fallen short at different times of our personal responsibility over our faith to follow Jesus. But the amazing thing about that is that he doesn't just count us out. He forgives us, and he continues to love us no matter what. The story continues on. And it's our job to step up and take action. So this morning, we are going to take the rest of this service to really reflect on the amazing way that Jesus invites us in to be a part of his story. And we're going to do this with communion. If you didn't receive your communion cup now, you can definitely go grab one. But for some of you, this may feel a little awkward. You may still be considering how you are a piece of all of this, a part of this story. And that is okay. Here at Infuse, we invite you to continue to explore your faith and to figure that out. Grab a faith growth guide in the back, or maybe you're just going to take this opportunity to fill out your connection card. Get to know a pastor here at Infuse that can answer some of those questions for you. Or maybe take the rest of this service to reflect on what Jesus could bring to your life. What can I surrender to him, and what would that look like? This is that time. For the rest of us in the room that may be already on this path of following Jesus, maybe your next step is owning up. It's taking responsibility over exploring the next steps in your faith. And here at Infuse, those next steps look like baptism, right? Maybe that's the thing you need to consider or reflect upon today with Jesus. Maybe those next steps are giving, being generous with those around you. Not just giving to the church, but giving in general. Maybe that next step for you is getting in a group, joining in community, or inviting someone around you to get to know Jesus even better and investing in that relationship. It's not often that we get to pause in our lives to be able to take time to reflect on these things. So during this, please just reflect on those instances where maybe you're seeking forgiveness for your lack of responsibility, or maybe you're just guiding and asking for wisdom on those next steps. So I'm going to invite you to take communion now, and as we do so, you can remove the top layer of your cup. That's where you're going to find the wafer, and I'll guide you through, and then there's one more layer for the drink. So we'll take this all together in just a moment. And we do that as a symbol. Communion is a symbol, a time to remember the gift of God's love, of God's Son, Jesus, and him giving his life to love us imperfect people, to invite us in to be a part of his kingdom story here on earth. So as we take this bread, let us remember that on the night Jesus was betrayed, he took the bread and he broke it, saying this is my body, broken for you, my followers. Eat it in remembrance of me. And again, after supper, he took the cup and he said, "This cup represents the new covenant that my blood on that cross makes. This new way that you are invited into this story. So when you drink it in remembrance of me." So don't lose this legacy. Let's all bow our heads, and as you're comfortable, pray with me. Heavenly Father, we come before you grateful for this opportunity that we get to be a part of something so much bigger than ourselves. We take this time to lift up those things on our hearts, those responsibilities that we know have been weighing us down. Those things that we've been saying, I don't want to. We ask for your forgiveness for the ways that we have let you down. We ask for forgiveness in our lives over the ways that we have lacked that responsibility. But we thank you for the love you've shown us despite all of that. Help us to take this moment to feel that change. To not let this story end today with an inspiring word or with reading the Bible, but to continue to invest in our story. to seek you, to seek that kingdom living that you set out for us here on earth. Give us the power and the strength that we need to continue to do that in face of the things that we're faced with daily. Don't let us lose our legacy. And we pray those things in your name. Amen. So as we sing this final song together, I just invite all of you to really pay attention to the line that says, I give you my life. I'm broken inside, but I give you my life. And surrender, in this moment, in this song, surrender those things to Jesus and see how that can change the legacy you're leaving behind. You may stand and join us.
I need you to soften my heart and break me apart. I need you to open my eyes and see that you're shaping my life. All I am, I surrender. Give me faith to trust what you say, that you're good and your love is great. I'm broken inside, I give you my life. I need you to soften my heart and break me apart. I need you to pierce through the dark and cleanse every part of me. All I am, I surrender. Give me faith to trust what you say, that you're good and your love is great. I'm broken inside, I give you my life. 'Cause I may be weak, but your spirit's strong in me, and my flesh may fail, but my God, you never will. And I may be weak, but your spirit's strong in me, and my flesh may fail, but my God, you never will. Give me faith to trust what you say, that you're good and your love is great. I'm broken inside, I give you my life. 'Cause I may be weak, but your spirit's strong in me, and my flesh may fail, but my God, you never will. 'Cause I may be weak, but your spirit's strong in me, and my flesh may fail, but my God, you never will. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you next week for our new series, Resistible Religion. So we'll see you next week. Have a great week.
Hey everybody, good to see you all. We saw, you wrote these down. Maybe
Yes,
you read-
Rochelle pardon if we messed your name up.
You're right.
Rochelle, Michelle, Kit, Megan, and Dean and Mom. Good to see you on there. Saw some new faces as well in church, so that was good.
Yeah.
It's great always to have new people in here. That resistible religion, it got her as a tongue tied. See, it got us earlier, and it got her too. So next week's resistible religion is the series name,
Yep.
and it was kind of a tongue twister. But yes, so that was great to see everybody online, and some of the answers. I saw Bob instead of Ralph, so that
Yeah,
was
Bob
funny. I
Lincoln.
don't remember who said it, but they said Bob. I'm like, that's just a classic funny. Yeah, but Ralph is pretty funny too, because it could be a sound and a name.
Yeah,
So
right.
you know,
There you go.
So it got me chuckling in service. But
Nice.
thanks for everybody who participated in that.
Yeah.
What do we got here?
What did you think of today's message? The final.
I think it was a great recap of the last 4. I guess it was 5 weeks, but it's 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things right now in my mind I could say I don't want to. And, you know, sometimes you say, I don't want to be an adult. You wake up and you're like, I don't want an adult today. I'm just going to stay in bed. But, you know, pushing through is,
Yeah.
knowing that God only puts in front of you what you can handle. And if
Right.
you think you can't handle it, you're wrong, because He's not going to put it there if you can't handle it. So I think
Yeah.
the biggest thing of that message is take responsibility for your own and not give it to somebody else. And sometimes by you taking your own responsibility, it reduces somebody else's on accident purely.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
mean, that's what I got.
Yeah. No, it's exciting. So yeah, if you're around here, join us for ping pong and chili this Saturday at 4 p.m. up at the First Church of the Nazarene in Cedar Rapids, our partner church. And otherwise, we will see you here next week, 1 hour early. Make sure you get your treat so that you aren't too envious of the Hertz donuts
Yes,
here.
because I might be holding the donut for online if I'm on here. I'm not sure if I'm
Yeah.
hosting or not. But
We'll find out.
I might wear PJs too. You never know.
You never
We'll
know.
figure it out.
Good
Have
to
a
see
good
you
week.
all. Have a good week.